The dust of Isolo village was warm and red beneath Anya's bare feet. It was the hour when the heat broke and the women walked down to the river to fetch water. Anya carried her largest clay pot, an empty vessel that felt as heavy as her heart. In Isolo, a woman's worth was calculated simply. It was the children she bore. If the gods favored you, your arms were full. If they didn't, you were left with nothing but shame. Anya was beautiful. Her skin was the color of polished ebony, and her movements were fluid and graceful. But her beauty meant nothing, overshadowed by the simple, cruel truth. After 5 years of marriage to Kale, her womb remained empty. She heard the voices before she saw the crowd. The riverbank was the village's stage for judgment, a place where the daily chores became a brutal spectacle. Zara was always the center of the gathering. Zara had 6 children, all robust and healthy, and she wore her motherhood like a heavy crown. Anya slowed her pace. She fixed her gaze on the narrow path ahead, pretending the laughter was merely the sound of the flowing river. "Look, Jide, she comes." Zara's voice sliced through the afternoon air. It was loud enough to carry, but pitched just low enough to deny accountability if confronted. Jide, who only had 3 children, gave a dutiful, snickering response. The other women chuckled. Anya reached the water's edge. She lowered her great pot carefully, focusing on the cool splash, the way the clay absorbed the clean water. She kept her back to the gossiping women. "She goes about her tasks as if the spirits have blessed her," Zara continued. "A woman so beautiful, yet no children to show for it. What a waste." The word waste hit Anya like a thrown pebble. It stung, but she did not flinch. She had trained herself well. She was dignified. She was strong. She would not let them see her break. A woman named Lara chimed in. "Maybe the gods are punishing her. Why else would the heavens close a woman's womb? Something is amiss." "What good is beauty if you cannot even bear a child?" another asked. The torrent of scorn washed over Anya, but she kept her breathing steady. She dipped the pot until it was full, the water bubbling and settling. The full pot weighed 100 pounds, a welcome weight that required all her attention. Physical strain was easier to bear than emotional pain. She hoisted the vessel onto her head in one practiced motion. The women fell quiet, watching her perfect balance. Anya turned and faced them as she passed. Zara gave a final exaggerated sneer. "She thinks her pride can fill her husband's house." Anya did not meet her eyes. She did not stumble. She walked past the line of women, her head held high, the water pot steady on her head. She was a moving statue of endurance, but the moment she left the riverbank and the trees screened her from view, her strength failed. A single tear traced a path down her cheek. The words she had suppressed swelled inside her. Waste, punishment, shame. When she reached her hut, Kale was not yet home from the fields. The hut was clean, peaceful and quiet, too quiet. Anya set the water pot down with a soft thud. The silence of the empty house was worse than the malice of the villagers. She wanted a child. She longed for the weight of a baby in her arms, for the sound of tiny laughter, for a presence that would fill the endless void. She wanted a child who would silence the cruel voices forever, giving her life and Kale's meaning in the eyes of Isolo. She sank onto the woven mat, burying her face in her hands. The loneliness was a physical weight, crushing her. She was beautiful, loyal, and loving. But in Isolo, she was nothing. Her worth was zero. She prayed every day. She offered sacrifices at the shrine of the village gods. Nothing worked. The gods were silent. When Kale finally came home, smelling of earth and sweat, he saw the tightness in her shoulders before he even saw the dampness around her eyes. He dropped his hoe by the door and crossed the room, swiftly. "My love," he said, his voice deep and steady. He pulled her into his arms. Did they speak again? Anya could only nod, pressing her face against his chest. Kale was her anchor. He was steady, fiercely loyal, and he saw her worth. "Do not listen to them, my love," he murmured, holding her close. "You are more than enough for me. You are my home. Children will come when the gods are ready." His words were comfort, but they were also a plea for patience, a patience Anya was rapidly losing. The battle against the village's scorn was exhausting. But worse than the village, worse than Zara, was the war she fought under her own roof. The internal battlefield was Kale's mother's compound. Mama Kale was the matriarch of their family line, a woman built like a pillar of hardwood, harsh and unbending. She was not loud like Zara. Her disapproval was delivered in sharp, precise cuts. Mama Kale had hoped for many grandchildren from her firstborn son. 5 years without a single infant was, to her, an insult to their ancestors. The next morning, Anya went to the cookhouse to bring Mama Kale her porridge. Mama Kale was sitting on a stool, sorting curry shells. She didn't look up when Anya entered. "You have been in this house for how many seasons now, Anya?" Mama Kale asked, the question hanging in the quiet air. 5 years, Mama, Anya replied softly, setting the steaming bowl down. Mama Kale finally lifted her eyes. They were dark and unforgiving. 5 seasons, still no children. No grandsons to carry our name, no granddaughters to warm my old bones. She let the silence stretch, forcing Anya to bear the weight of the emptiness. "What kind of a woman are you, who keeps my son's seed locked away?" The shame was immediate, a hot flush rising from Anya's neck. "I pray every day, Mama. I have done all the sacrifices." "Prayers are for those who are worthy of the God's attention," Mama Kale cut in, discarding a broken shell. "Your worth is measured by results, and your results are 0. The word 0 was devastating. It stripped away all her effort, all her love for Kale, all her quiet suffering. "I have given my son 5 years of waiting," Mama Kale continued, her voice gaining a dangerous, slow momentum. "He deserves a full house, a legacy." She leaned forward, and her shadow fell over Anya. "If you cannot bear my son children, Anya, perhaps it is time for you to leave, so that he can marry another woman who will." Anya stumbled back a step. The air seemed to leave her lungs. Leave Kale. The thought was unbearable, a nightmare made real. Kale was her shield against the world, her reason for enduring the scorn. "Mama," Anya pleaded, her voice shaking, "please, I beg you, give me time." "Time is for the young, fertile fields," Mama Kale said, standing up. The conversation was over. "Your field is stone. I will not watch my son waste his years on barren land." Anya fled the compound. She walked straight back to her hut and began to tremble, her entire body seized by a cold, desperate terror. Mama Kyle's words were more than threats, they were commands in Isolo. Kyle was devoted, but he was also bound by filial duty. If his mother insisted he take another wife, or worse, dismiss Anya, he might have no choice. The pain, the humiliation from the riverbank, the unending pressure, it all surged together in a single crushing wave. Anya grabbed a small cloth bundle, throwing only a few possessions inside. She couldn't stay. She could no longer endure the pain and the shame, the constant pressure to fulfill a role she desperately wanted, but could not control. She ran out of the village, her feet kicking up red dust. She ignored the startled cries of neighbors and the curious looks of children. She ran until the familiar sounds of Isolo faded behind her. Her feet carried her away from the village and into the thick forest that bordered the farmlands. This forest was different. It was dark, dense, and unnaturally quiet. This was the forbidden forest. Anya had been warned since childhood never to enter this place. Legends said spirits and ancient, unpredictable gods lived in its depths. The villagers feared it, whispering that those who ventured too far would never return. Anya didn't care. At that moment, she felt she had already lost everything. She pushed deeper into the trees, seeking only distance and silence. She needed to escape the weight of Isolo's judgment. She needed to escape the woman she had become, the barren wife. The sun began to set. The shadows of the giant trees grew long and deep, wrapping the forest floor in a cool, menacing gloom. Anya walked until her legs ached and she was gasping for breath. Finally, she stopped at the base of a truly massive tree. It was ancient, its trunk wider than 3 men, its canopy blocking out the last rays of the sun. Its roots snaked out of the earth like sleeping pythons. This was the great tree, the heart of the fear, the source of the legends. Anya sank to her knees before it. She was alone, lost and broken. She was not afraid of the tree. She felt she had nothing left to lose. She was ready to face the gods of the wild if it meant escaping the god of motherhood that ruled Isolo. Anya knelt on the cool, damp earth at the foot of the great tree. The air here was heavy, thick with the scent of damp moss and something else. something ancient, like burnt offering and ozone. Above her, the branches creaked in a wind that did not touch the forest floor. She wept. The grief was not quiet this time. It was a desperate, raw sound torn from her chest. "O great spirit of the tree," she cried, her voice trembling and raw, "I come to you with a heavy heart." She looked up, her tear-streaked face turned toward the darkness of the canopy. "Please hear my plea. I have been mocked. I have been shamed. I have been tormented because I cannot bear a child." She recounted the cruelty of the village women, the coldness of Mama Kale, the threat of losing Kale. She laid bare the depth of her yearning. "If there is any mercy left in the world," she begged, pressing her forehead to a root, "please bless me with a child of my own." She paused, taking a ragged breath, and spoke the words of ultimate surrender. "I am willing to do anything, anything at all." The only response was the whisper of the wind high above. Anya waited, trembling. The silence stretched, mocking her foolish hope. She had fled her village for a myth. She was about to rise, admitting her despair, when the silence was broken. "Anya?" The voice was soft, melodic, yet carried a clear, ringing authority that transcended the rustling leaves. She scrambled up, spinning around. Standing 20 feet behind her, emerging from the deep shadow of the tree, was an old woman. Anya had not seen her approach. The woman was dressed in simple white robes that seemed to capture the last vestiges of twilight, making her faintly luminous. Her hair was silver, not white-grey, but truly the color of moonlight, bound in a neat coil. Her eyes were startlingly bright, filled with a deep, ancient wisdom that seemed to assess Anya's very soul. There was something undeniably otherworldly about her presence, as if she were not entirely made of flesh and bone. "Who are you?" Anya asked, wiping the tears from her face with the back of her hand. "I am the servant of the tree," the old woman replied. Her voice was soothing, like the sound of rustling dry leaves underfoot. "Why do you weep so bitterly, my child?" "I weep because I cannot have a child," Anya explained, finding a strange clarity in the woman's presence. "And without a child, I am nothing in my village. My mother-in-law despises me. The women mock me. I would give anything to be blessed with a child." The old woman stepped closer, her expression shifting from calm to something akin to pity. "You speak of children as though they are the only measure of your worth. There is more to life than the gift of motherhood, Anya. Do you not see the beauty and kindness within you?" Anya looked down, shame returning. "Kindness does not fill a cradle." "True," the woman conceded, "but I understand your pain. The path ahead will not be easy, and the spirits are not to be sought out lightly." Her bright eyes fixed on Anya. "But you said you are truly willing to do anything. Is this truth?" "It is," Anya said, meeting her gaze, her desperation lending her courage. "Then I will show you a way." The woman turned and pointed to a narrow, nearly invisible deer path that led deeper into the gloom of the woods, away from the great tree. "Follow this path," she instructed. "It will take you to the heart of the forest. There you will find a tree unlike any other. Its branches reach the heavens, and its roots stretch to the depth of the earth. Pluck one leaf from its branches and return to me here. You must not hesitate, and you must not turn back." Anya looked at the path. It was dark, forbidding, and promised nothing but danger. But the old woman's eyes offered a faint, unbelievable flicker of hope. Anya knew this was her test. "I will go," Anya said, her voice now steady. The old woman simply nodded, folding her hands into the voluminous white fabric of her robe. "Go quickly, twilight is short." Anya spun around and began to walk, pushing through the undergrowth. Her heart pounded, not with fear of the forest, but with the terrifying, fragile possibility of an answered prayer. She had walked into the darkness of the forbidden, driven by the light of a single, impossible hope. Anya followed the narrow path. The forest instantly grew denser, swallowing the faint light of the fading sky. The trees here seemed taller, older, and their branches intertwined like gnarled fingers. Anya had to step carefully, pushing aside giant ferns and ducking under thick vines. She focused only on the path, recalling the old woman's instruction. "Do not hesitate. Do not turn back." The path twisted and turned, and soon Anya was completely disoriented. She was in a world of pure shadow and texture. She could hear the rustle of unseen creatures in the bushes and the far-off hoot of a night owl, but the immediate area was eerily still. After what felt like a journey of many hours, though the sun had only just vanished, the path suddenly opened up. Anya stepped out into a small, unexpected clearing. The clearing was bathed in light, not the harsh light of the sun, but a soft, shimmering silver glow that seemed to emanate from the very air. In the center of this secluded space stood a tree unlike anything Anya had ever imagined. It was tall and perfectly formed, but its structure defied natural geometry. Its trunk seemed woven from pure light, and its leaves were not green, but a translucent, flickering gold. They trembled constantly, catching the moonlight filtering through a small hole in the canopy, making the entire tree sparkle like a cascade of stars. Anya stood in awe. The beauty was breathtaking, an unearthly counterpoint to the hostile darkness that surrounded the clearing. This was the tree the old woman had described, a bridge between the world of Isolo and the realm of the spirits. She moved forward slowly, reaching out a hesitant hand. The air around the shimmering leaves felt cool and alive, buzzing with a quiet energy. She needed only one. She carefully selected a leaf near the edge of a branch. Its texture was smooth, like cool, polished metal, and it pulsed faintly in her palm. After she plucked it, holding the golden, flickering leaf, Anya felt a surge of triumph. Her faith had been tested, and she had passed. She turned to leave the clearing and return to the old woman. But as she took her first step, a voice, deep and resonant, echoed through the quiet space. It was not the soft voice of the old woman. It was vast, like the sound of earth moving. "Beware, Anya." Anya froze, dropping her hand. She scanned the clearing desperately. There was no one. The voice had come from everywhere and nowhere, from the air itself. "The path you seek comes with a price." The voice was a low, powerful whisper, charged with authority. Anya's heart pounded against her ribs. Fear, real fear, finally took hold. She called out into the darkness. "What price? Tell me the price." Silence. The shimmering leaves of the tree continued their slow, rhythmic trembling. The immense voice did not reply. The spirit had delivered its warning and retreated. Anya stood rooted for a long minute, the warning ringing in her ears. A price. Of course, a gift from such a place could not be free, but the shame of Isolo, the terror of losing Kale, the raw ache of her empty arms, that price had already been paid for years. What could the spirit demand that was worse than her current suffering? She clutched the golden leaf tighter. She had sworn she would do anything. She could not turn back now. She had the leaf. She would face the price when it was named. She turned and hurried back toward the barely visible path, driven by a new urgency. She moved faster now, less intimidated by the darkness, consumed by the strange new hope she carried in her hand. When she reached the place where she had left her, the old woman in white was waiting for her, standing exactly where she had been before. "You have done well," the old woman said, taking the leaf from Anya's trembling hand. The shimmering gold was duller now, outside the light of its home tree, but still warm. "The spirit spoke," Anya whispered, trying to catch her breath. "It warned me of a price." The old woman's eyes were deep and unreadable. "All blessings carry conditions. You may worry of the price later. For now, you must listen carefully to what is next." She held the leaf out for Anya to see. "When you return to your village, you must plant this leaf in your garden. Tend to it every day. It will not grow into an ordinary plant, and it will show you the way to motherhood." The old woman pressed the leaf back into Anya's palm, closing her fingers over it. "But you must be patient. The journey ahead will test your heart, not just your courage." Anya looked down at the leaf, then up at the ancient, unmoving face of the servant of the tree. The woman gave a final brief nod, and before Anya could ask another question, she simply faded back into the heavy shadows of the great tree, leaving Anya completely alone. The moon was higher now. The urgent need to return before Kale realized she was gone overwhelmed her. Anya turned and fled the forest, the golden leaf clutched tightly in her hand, the memory of the deep, whispering warning already taking root in her mind. Anya arrived home before dawn, slipping into the hut quietly. Kale was sleeping soundly, unaware of her desperate hours-long journey into the forbidden. She hid the leaf, wrapped in a smooth dark cloth, under her sleeping mat. The next morning, she ate quickly and went straight to the small patch of cultivated earth behind their hut, her garden. It was a meager space, but she kept it meticulously neat, growing herbs and a few peppers. She dug a small hole with a trowel and placed the golden leaf inside, covering it gently. The soil was cool and accepting. Anya fetched water and poured it over the spot. She stood there for a long time, watching the water soak into the earth, wondering if she had truly been in the presence of spirits or if grief had played tricks on her mind. Weeks passed. Anya endured the daily scorn at the riverbank and the cutting silence of Mama Kyle. But now she had a secret, a quiet hope that kept her shoulders straight. Then a sprout emerged. It was not a typical seedling. It was too pale, almost translucent, and it grew with an unsettling speed. Within days it was a foot tall, but it lacked the symmetry of natural life. The thin stalk twisted and coiled in unnatural spirals, and the small, delicate leaves were edged in a faint silvery green shimmer. It grew straight toward the sun, yet its geometry felt alien. Anya tended it with a devotion she had never given a plant before. She watered it precisely at dawn and sunset, keeping the soil perfectly moist. She spoke to it, whispering her deepest desire for a child. Soon the strange plant was tall enough to be seen over the low fence of her garden. The whispers began instantly, first from the children, who pointed and giggled at the plant's weird, spiraling shape. Then the women of Isolo noticed. Zara and her circle came to peer over the fence. "What sorcery is this?" Zara demanded, her voice ringing with malicious curiosity. "No good plant twists like that. It looks like a snake's coil." "She is desperate for a child," Lara said, nodding wisely. "Perhaps she has turned to dark medicine. Maybe she has turned to a witch to get a child." The rumors quickly intensified. Anya was no longer merely barren, now she was dangerous. The villagers kept their distance, crossing the path when they saw her, and their mockery turned into fear. Mama Kale was the next to confront her. She walked into Anya's garden with the grim formality of a priest entering a corrupted temple. "What is this thing growing in your garden?" Mama Kale demanded, pointing at the luminous, coiling plant. "It is not of our land. It is unholy." "It is a strong plant, Mama," Anya said, shielding it with her body. "It is new. It is green." "It is a curse," Mama Kale declared. "It will bring misfortune upon this house and upon my son. You must uproot it now, or I will." Anya stood firm, her gaze level with her mother-in-law's. "I will not uproot it, Mama. It is mine to tend." The confrontation ended in a stalemate. Mama Kale left, her disapproval radiating like heat. But she did not touch the plant. Anya knew her time was running short. She needed the plant to deliver its promise quickly. During this time, her dreams became vivid and constant. Every night she was in the silver clearing again. She saw the boy. He was small, with skin like polished earth and eyes that shone like two bright suns. He was always laughing, always reaching for her with tiny hands. "Mother," he would call, his voice ringing with pure joy. Anya would rush toward him, arms outstretched, but just as her fingers brushed his skin, he would laugh, a sound like wind chimes, and vanish. She would wake up weeping, the phantom weight of him aching in her arms. The dreams were a promise and a torment. They confirmed the reality of her quest, but they also reminded her that this child, if he came, was ephemeral, bound to something beyond her grasp. The plant was growing, but the child was still slipping away. The price was always present. Anya continued to tend the strange plant. Weeks became months, and the plant grew taller than a man, its spiraled branches intertwined, creating a small, luminous, living sculpture in her garden. The tips of the leaves began to pulse with a faint light when the sun was not directly upon them. The village continued to whisper, but Anya ignored them all. Her hope was now a physical presence in her garden. One morning, Anya woke up with a sharp, clear sense of expectation. Something was different. The dreams of the bright-eyed boy had been more insistent, more tangible that night. She hurried out to the garden. As she approached the plant, she gasped and stopped in her tracks. The air around the plant was shimmering, and the silvery green light was now a clear, soft golden glow. The light pulsed gently, enveloping the strange foliage. At the very center of the intricate spirals, nestled like a heart, was a single fruit. It was small, perfectly round, and shaped like a gourd, but it was not green or yellow. It was the color of pure, polished gold. It radiated the same soft light as the plant, shimmering gently in the morning sun. Anya moved closer, her breath catching in her throat. This was it, the promise. She carefully reached out and plucked the fruit. It was warm to the touch and surprisingly light. It felt alive, containing immense energy within its small shell. She held it close to her chest and rushed inside, hiding it immediately. She kept the fruit with her all day, feeling its faint warmth through her clothes. She couldn't eat it. She needed guidance. That night she fell asleep quickly, clutching the golden fruit in her hand. She found herself instantly in the dream clearing again. The air was silver, bathed in perpetual moonlight. The great tree towered above her. The old woman in white stood before her, her silver hair shimmering. Her expression was calm, but serious, carrying the immense weight of the spirit world. "You have done well, Anya," the old woman said softly. "You have followed the path with patience, and your desire is pure." Anya held up the fruit. "Is this the answer?" "It is the key," the old woman affirmed. "The fruit you have plucked is no ordinary fruit. It holds the essence of life drawn from the heart of the ancient spirit tree." A shiver ran down Anya's spine. "And the conditions? The price?" The old woman's voice became quiet but firm. "If you wish to bear a child, you must consume the fruit. But understand this, your child will not be like others. He will be a blessing, yes, a gift that answers your prayers, but his destiny will be tied to the spirit. He will walk between the two worlds." Anya felt a cold dread mix with her overwhelming hope. What does it mean, tied to the spirit? Will he be in danger? "He will be protected, and he will be powerful," the old woman said. "But he will not belong to this world alone. You must raise him with great care and immense love, for his ultimate service is not to Isolo or to your house, but to the world and the spirits who watch over it." The woman's bright eyes held Anya's gaze. "This is the condition. The love and protection you give him will shape his time in your world. If you are ready to take this responsibility, this blessing and this burden, then eat the fruit at sunrise." With that final, solemn instruction, the old woman began to fade, her white robes dissolving into the silver light of the clearing. Anya awoke with a start. The golden fruit lay on her mat, glowing faintly in the pre-dawn gloom. She was trembling. The warning was clear. She was not just choosing motherhood, she was choosing an impossible path for her son. A path that would eventually lead him away from her. The sun was a fiery red line low on the eastern horizon, threatening to break the darkness. Anya sat on her mat, clutching the golden fruit. The old woman's final instruction was playing over and over in her mind. Eat the fruit at sunrise. She had only moments left to decide. The fruit was warm in her hand, radiating a gentle, vital energy that seemed to soothe the frantic pounding of her heart. He will not belong to this world alone. Would he be a happy child? Would she spend her life waiting for the spirits to call him away? Would Kale understand this incredible condition? And Mama Kale, how would she react when the child showed signs of being connected to the forbidden forest? The doubts were heavy, twisting themselves into cold knots in her stomach. But then the memory of her years of suffering flooded back. Zara's scorn, Mama Kyle's cruel ultimatum, the emptiness of the hut, the silent shame that followed her like a second shadow. And the dreams, the vivid recurring dreams of the laughing boy with eyes like suns. She thought of the joy of feeling a child kick beneath her heart, the pride of holding him, the simple relief of being a mother. This was the one chance, a miracle granted by an ancient, powerful entity. To turn back now would be to choose a life of guaranteed, permanent desolation. The sun began to climb. A single sliver of brilliant gold broke the horizon, casting a beam of light through the open doorway. I swore I would do anything. Anya took a deep breath. She raised the fruit, closing her eyes, offering a silent prayer to the great spirit of the tree and to her ancestors. She had accepted the condition. She was ready for the price. She bit into the golden fruit. The taste was unlike anything earthly she had ever consumed. It was overwhelmingly sweet, yet laced with a strange metallic tang. like honey mixed with ozone and moonlight. It crackled slightly on her tongue. As soon as she swallowed the pulp, she felt a profound change. A surge of warmth, intense and vital, flooded her entire body. It spread from her belly outward, filling every nerve and every muscle. It was not just heat, it was pure, clean, living energy, a powerful, brilliant sensation. It felt as if the sun itself had taken root within her, dispelling every trace of doubt and coldness. The feeling lasted only a moment, but when it subsided, Anya knew. She knew with a certainty deeper than thought or logic. Something immense had happened. She was no longer empty. She opened her eyes. The first full light of the morning streamed into the hut. The golden fruit was gone, consumed. Anya stood up, feeling lighter than she had in years. The shame had evaporated, replaced by a fierce, fragile hope. She hid the remnants of the rind and went about her morning duties with a quiet joy. Days turned into weeks, and soon Anya could no longer deny the changes in her body. She was pregnant. The miracle had taken root. She rushed to tell Kale. He had just returned from the fields, tired and dusty. He stopped when he saw her face, an expression of luminous, quiet excitement he had never seen before. "Kale," she whispered, her voice choked with tears of joy. "We are blessed. I carry a child." Kale stared at her for a long moment, then let out a shout of pure, unrestrained happiness. He swept her into his arms, spinning her around the small hut, laughing with a sound that shook the rafters. He cried with joy, his love and years of patient devotion finally rewarded. The announcement was met with astonishment in Isolo. The woman they had mocked for years, the barren wife, was finally with child. Ridicule immediately turned to intense curiosity. The women at the riverbank stared, whispering amongst themselves, unable to reconcile the Anya they had scorned with the visibly glowing mother-to-be. Even Mama Kale softened. When Kale told her the news, she simply sat in silence for a long time, her face unreadable. Finally, she nodded once. "It is time," she said, her voice softer than Anya had ever heard it. The threat of replacement vanished, replaced by the anticipation of a grandchild. Anya was finally, truly accepted into the family. The journey had begun, and Anya was finally walking in the light, but sometimes when she was alone, a cool breeze would touch her skin, and she would remember the spirit's quiet warning. The warmth of the golden fruit would dim, and she would remember the price she had accepted. Anya's pregnancy was gentle and strong. She felt none of the typical sickness or discomfort. Instead, she carried a deep, radiating energy that made her feel more alive and vital than ever before. Her skin seemed to glow, and her smile was genuine. Kale was relentlessly attentive. He brought her the sweetest yams and the freshest fish. He forbade her from going to the river, sending younger girls instead, so she wouldn't have to face the women. But the women no longer mocked her. When Anya passed, they bowed their heads, their whispers now a mix of awe and speculation. "She must have found a powerful charm," Zara admitted one day to Lara, watching Anya walk by. "A powerful spirit granted her wish," Lara countered, glancing nervously toward the distant edge of the forbidden forest. "Look at the way she carries the child. It is no ordinary pregnancy." Anya ignored their attempts at analysis. The peace was intoxicating. For the first time, she walked with the visible favor of the community. She was no longer the barren one. She was a mother, waiting. As her belly swelled, the dreams intensified. They were no longer frustrating glimpses of a vanishing child, but clear, comforting visions of her son. She knew his laugh, the shape of his eyes, the slight curve of his mouth. But the dreams held the dual nature of the blessing. Sometimes, in the periphery of her vision, dark, towering shadows would loom around the laughing boy. They were not menacing, but simply present, watching. The old woman's words echoed clearly in the silence of the dream. "He will not belong to this world alone." Anya tried to discuss it with Kale, but she could not bring herself to mention the golden fruit or the spirit tree. "I have strange dreams," she admitted one night, leaning against him. "The child in them is so bright, Kale, almost like he is made of sunlight." Kale simply stroked her hair. "Then he will be a strong son, my love, a leader. Let us think only of the sunlight." He saw the miracle, but not the condition. He saw the gift, but not the price. Anya knew she was the only one who carried the full knowledge of their son's destiny. The months passed, and finally the day of the birth arrived. The labor was long and difficult, marked by moments of intense, otherworldly stillness between the pains. Anya felt as if she were tearing herself away from two realms, not one. But in the end, in the small dim light of their hut, she gave birth. She gave birth to a beautiful, perfect baby boy. He was immediately distinct. His skin was smooth and warm, like polished stone, and his cry was surprisingly soft, almost a chime. But his eyes, they were the bright, dark eyes of her dreams, and they gleamed with an otherworldly, intelligent light. They named him Jari, meaning God has blessed me. Anya held him, and the pain of the last 5 years vanished. The profound, complete love of motherhood, the thing she had risked everything for, filled her entirely. This was the miracle. This was the answer. But even as a newborn, Jari was not ordinary. He rarely cried. Instead, he would simply gaze around the hut with wide, curious eyes, quiet and preternaturally calm. It was as if he was studying the world, seeing things in the shadows and corners that no one else could perceive. Mama Kale was the first to notice. She had come to the hut, reluctant yet drawn by the news. She watched as Jari lay in his cradle, utterly silent, his eyes fixed on the ceiling. "He is too quiet," Mama Kale murmured, a hint of concern replacing her former disdain. "Babies should wail." "He is strong, Mama," Kale insisted, beaming with fatherly pride. But Anya knew Jari was strong, yes, but he was also connected. He was the bridge child, the son who already belonged to two worlds. From the day Jari was born, strange small wonders began to attend him. Anya had worried about the price, but initially it only presented itself as a profound blessing. One afternoon, when Jari was a few months old, Anya was carrying him wrapped snugly in a sling through the village. It was a clear, sunny day, but suddenly the sky darkened, and a strong, violent wind began to blow. The villagers cried out, scrambling to secure their thatched roofs and loose tools. Dust swirled and leaves whipped past Anya's face. She instinctively clutched Jari closer, shielding him, but Jari was not upset. As the wind howled around them, he let out a sudden bubbling giggle. He reached his tiny, perfect hands out toward the storm, and just like that, the wind stopped. It didn't fade or lessen, it simply ceased, as if a great unseen hand had silenced it. The leaves settled, the dust dropped. The sudden silence was deafening. The villagers who had witnessed it stood frozen, staring at Anya and the baby. A man named Bode, known for his harsh skepticism, muttered, "The child." The child stilled the air. The whispers returned, but they were different now. They were not of scorn or even of suspicion. They were whispers of awe, of wonder, and a creeping, respectful fear. The child had powers. He was truly favored by the spirit. The title quickly spread, "The Child of the Spirit Tree." As Jari grew into a toddling boy, the signs multiplied. When he crawled, Anya noticed flowers, the delicate, rare kind that grew only deep in the forbidden forest, would sometimes bloom in the patches of dry earth where his hands had rested. These blooms lasted only a day before fading, but the evidence of his presence was unmistakable. Animals were also drawn to him. Even the wildest, most cautious creatures of the bush, the small deer, the silent snakes, the swift-moving pangolins, seemed to recognize something in him. They would approach him without fear. Once a large, normally aggressive wild boar wandered into the village, causing panic. When it neared Jari, the boy simply held out his hand. The boar stopped, lowered its massive head, and nudged Jari's palm gently before turning and walking calmly back into the forest. The villagers shifted from mockery to near awe. Zara and the river women no longer dared to look Anya in the eye, bowing their heads in respect when she passed. Anya, the Barren woman, was now the mother of a miracle. Anya was overjoyed by her son's gifts. He was kind, gentle, and utterly unique. He was everything she had prayed for and more. Her house was full of light and laughter. Kyle was the proudest man in Isolo, his devotion validated by the clear hand of the gods. But Anya could not forget the warning. Her joy was a fragile thing, constantly undermined by a quiet, steady sense of foreboding. The old woman's words were a cold anchor in the bright sea of her happiness. She often watched Jari as he played, his eyes tracking something unseen in the air, his small hands, moving in subtle ways that seemed to affect the world around him. He was her son, yes, but he was also a visitor. He will not belong to this world alone. Anya knew the spirits had lent her their child, and eventually they would ask for him back. She was raising a destiny, not just a boy, and the price she had agreed to was the ultimate release. The knowledge was a heavy, dull ache in her heart. She needed answers. She needed to know what lay ahead for her child, and for her. Jari grew quickly. By the age of 5, he was a slender, quick-witted boy whose presence brought an unusual sense of peace wherever he went. He learned the names of all the plants and trees, not just those around Isolo, but those deep in the forbidden forest which he had never visited. His gifts deepened. When the rains failed one year and the yam crops began to wither, Jari, holding a small offering of water, walked the perimeter of the parched field. He did not perform a chant or a ritual. He simply walked, his head bowed. Within the hour, a soft, localized rain began to fall only on the field, saving the harvest. The villagers wept with relief and gratitude. He could soothe illness with a touch. Elder Kalu, whose fever had raged for 3 days, called for Jari. The boy sat beside him, placed his small hand on Kalu's forehead, and closed his eyes. Minutes later, the fever broke. The deep respect in Isolo was now complete. Jari was not just a person, he was a miracle worker. The woman who had been nothing was now the mother of everything. Anya's life should have been perfect, but the success only amplified her anxiety. Her private foreboding increased every time Jari performed a public miracle. She saw the spirit's claim growing stronger, their invisible hand moving in her son's life. She tried to keep him close, teaching him the mundane chores, how to grind cassava, how to tie a proper knot, anything to ground him in the familiar world of Isolo. But Jari was distracted. He often paused his tasks, listening to a sound Anya couldn't hear, his eyes distant. "What is it, my son?" she asked him one day as he stood staring into the distance, his mortar and pestle still. "The voice of the wind, mother," he said, his bright eyes returning to hers. "It tells me the path to the sun is open today." "The path to the sun is the path to the field," Anya corrected gently, trying to tether him. "No," he said, shaking his head. "It is the path to the singing stones. They miss the forest." Anya smiled, but her heart twisted. He spoke the language of the spirits as easily as he spoke the language of Isolo. She knew she could wait no longer. She needed to understand the shape of the price she was soon to pay. She needed to see the old woman again. One evening, when Jari was exactly 5 years old, Anya dressed him in his finest tunic. She told Kale they were going to visit the great-aunt on the far side of the village. Instead, she took her son's hand and led him away from the village, toward the familiar, menacing silhouette of the forbidden forest. Jari walked without complaint, his small hand warm in hers. When they reached the edge of the dark, ancient wood, Anya paused, her anxiety rising. "Mother, this is the way to the great tree," Jari observed, his voice calm. "I know this path." Anya looked down at him. "Yes, my son, we are going to ask a question." They entered the forest. The familiar shadows and silence enveloped them, but this time Anya felt a difference. The darkness parted for Jari. The air around him was less heavy, more accepting. They walked until they reached the base of the immense great tree. Anya gently guided her son to stand beside her. She knelt before the roots, just as she had 5 years earlier. "Great Spirit of the trees," she called out, her voice stronger this time, filled with a mother's fierce protection. "I have come once again. I beg you, please tell me what lies ahead for my son. What is the meaning of his gift?" Anya knelt, waiting, with her son standing silently beside her. The ancient tree did not move, and the heavy air did not stir. Just as she began to despair of an answer, a shimmer occurred near the trunk. The old woman in white stepped out from the deep shadows. She looked no older than she had 5 years ago, her silver hair shining, her eyes clear and profound. "You have kept your word, Anya," the old woman said, her voice a low chime. "You have raised your son with love. He is strong." Anya rose quickly. "His gifts are too great. His life is too connected." "Tell me, old woman, what is the fate of my child? What is the price I must pay?" The old woman looked from Anya to Jari. Jari did not shrink from the gaze. Instead, he met it with the calm curiosity of a peer. "Your son was born of the tree's magic," the old woman affirmed. "The spirit watched over him, and his purpose is greater than the village of Isolo." She turned her full attention back to Anya. "He will have to choose his path. His purpose is to serve the spirit, to live among them and use his gifts for the good of the world, to be a protector and a bridge between the realms." Anya's heart seized in her chest. The prophecy confirmed her worst fear. "He will have to leave me." "When the time is right, the call will be absolute," the old woman said simply. "He will be called to fulfill his destiny." Tears sprang to Anya's eyes, but she did not let them fall. She was fighting for her son's presence. "But the choice," she pleaded, "can I not choose for him to stay? He is only 5 years old. He is my son." The old woman stepped closer, placing a gentle, cool hand on Anya's shoulder. "The greatest gift you gave him was life. The greatest gift you must give him now is choice. The decision will be his alone." She looked straight into Anya's soul. "You cannot make it for him, nor should you want to. To truly love a miracle, you must love the scope of its purpose, even if that purpose takes it away from you." "He is not yours alone," the woman repeated the words Anya had heard in her dreams. "The world needs him just as much as you do. You must be strong, Anya. You must trust that whatever path he chooses, it will be the right one." The finality of the statement crushed Anya. She had begged for a child, endured years of scorn for this moment. Now the reward was a beautiful, powerful son, destined to leave her. The price of the golden fruit was the eventual, inevitable loss of its bounty. Anya sank to her knees again, not in prayer, but in submission to a fate she could not change. "Go back to your village," the old woman commanded softly. "Raise him in love. Do not shield him from his nature, and do not burden him with your fear. The day he is ready to choose, he will—" "No." The old woman then focused on Jari. "Do you understand, little one?" Jari nodded once, his bright eyes serious. "I hear the singing, servant of the tree. I will wait until the song is complete." With a final gentle glance at the distraught mother, the old woman dissolved back into the shadows of the great tree. Anya rose, taking Jari's hand. She led him back toward the village. The heavy stone of shame was gone, replaced by the heavier stone of sorrow. She was raising a bridge, knowing that one day she would have to watch him walk across it and disappear. The remainder of her motherhood would be spent preparing for an unavoidable farewell. The next 13 years passed in a rush of joy, miracles, and quiet dread. Anya followed the old woman's instructions. She did not burden Jari with her fear, nor did she attempt to suppress his unique nature. Jari grew into a remarkable young man. He was tall like his father, Kale, but carried the grace and inner luminescence of his spiritual lineage. His dark eyes retained the startling brightness of the sun, and he possessed an unsettling, comprehensive knowledge of the natural world. The miracles continued and multiplied. He did not need to walk the fields to bring rain. A quiet prayer while standing under the midday sun was enough. He could predict the movements of the herds and the changing moods of the river. He became the village's healer, their forecaster, and their living connection to the divine. The villagers' deep respect became complete. When Jari passed, they no longer whispered, they bowed in awe. They brought him gifts and sought his blessing for their marriages and their harvests. He was the pride of Isolo, and by extension, Anya was the most respected woman in the village. Even Mama Kyle had grown soft in her final years, passing away peacefully with Jari's hand on her forehead. Anya watched her son flourish. She saw the goodness he brought to the world, and her heart swelled with pride. But she never forgot the prophecy. She loved him fiercely, but she held him loosely, always preparing for the moment of release. She had mentally marked the passing of every year. At 10, he was hers. At 15, he was a borrowed man. On the day he turned 18, the air felt thick with possibility and closure. Anya prepared his birthday meal, a small goat, perfectly roasted, his favorite yams. The sun was warm, the village quiet in celebration. Jari came to her in the late afternoon. He was wearing the new tunic she had sewn for him. He stood before her, solemn and calm, no longer a boy, but a man of immense, settled energy. Anya paused, wiping the flour from her hands. She looked into his eyes, and she saw it. The quiet, final decision had been made. His gaze was distant, already focused on a far horizon she could not see. "Mother," he said quietly, his voice deep and clear, "it is time." The two words she had spent 13 years dreading were spoken with such simple certainty that they robbed her of breath. Anya's heart broke, a sharp physical pain that was instantly dulled by the weight of her long-held acceptance. She did not weep. She did not protest. She had prepared for this. "Do you know where you will go, my son?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly, but controlled. Jari smiled gently, a true warm smile that reached his luminous eyes. "The spirits have been calling me, mother, not in whispers, but in a clear, sustained song. I must go to the foot of the great tree." He stepped toward her, taking her hands. "But don't worry, mother," he said, his voice reassuring and loving. "I will always be with you. I will not be here, but I will be a part of the rain that waters your garden and the wind that cools your face. The spirit cannot truly be separated from the world, and I am the spirit's son." Anya looked down at her hands, which had once felt empty, then felt the immense burden of the golden fruit, and now felt the warmth of her son's departure. The price was due. She embraced him. It was a long, silent embrace, filled with all the years of whispered prayers and silent tears, of shared laughter and proud watching. She held him tightly, choosing love over the selfish, desperate fear of loss. She gave him her final blessing. "Go, my son," she whispered against his shoulder. "Fulfill your destiny. My heart will follow you to the spirit world." As the sun began to set, painting the western sky in strokes of fiery orange and deep violet, Jari stepped out of the hut and began his walk. He did not look back. He walked away from the village toward the immense dark silhouette of the forbidden forest. Kale stood by the doorway, his eyes dark with unshed tears, but his posture straight with acceptance. He had been told the truth years ago, after the midpoint revelation, and he too had learned the hard lesson of loving a borrowed destiny. He placed a comforting hand on Anya's shoulder. She barely noticed. She stood watching her son, the boy she had risked the wrath of the gods for, walk away. Jari walked with a slow, deliberate pace. He carried no bundle, no tools. He was simply walking toward his true home. As he neared the line of trees, the air around him seemed to thicken and shimmer. The golden light that had attended his birth and his miracles seemed to pulse faintly from his form. Anya watched him reach the first immense, shadowy roots of the great tree. He paused, turned his face to the setting sun, and then stepped into the darkness. It was not a sudden disappearance, but a slow visual fading. As he crossed the threshold of the forest, the silver light of the spirit realm seemed to accept him. His outline grew indistinct, blurring with the shadows of the ancient wood. Then he was gone. There was only the thick, silent wall of the forbidden forest and the last brief burst of golden sunlight sinking below the horizon. The moment of farewell was complete. Anya stood there long after the sun had vanished, until the moon was high and the stars were sharp pinpricks of light in the vast sky. She was an empty vessel again, but the emptiness was different. It was clean, purified. The space where her fear had been was now filled with a quiet, profound understanding. Kale finally led her gently back into the hut. "He is gone, my love," Kale said, his voice rough. "No," Anya corrected, looking at the silent space where her son had vanished. "He has arrived. The gift was not for me to keep, Kale. The gift was for me to raise." She spent the next few days in quiet mourning, yet her grief was strangely serene. She missed the sound of his laughter, the sight of his powerful, slender frame. But the fear was gone. She had paid the price, and she had raised her miracle well. Anya returned to her daily tasks. She went to the river. Zara and the river women, who had heard of the spectacular departure, did not speak. They simply stared, their faces etched with awe and confusion. Anya had been elevated beyond their petty judgments. She had a son whose destiny was a legend, and their own children, however numerous, were just children. Anya simply fetched her water. She walked back with her pot balanced perfectly, no longer burdened by shame, nor burdened by fear. She was a mother who had fulfilled a purpose greater than the boundaries of Isolo. The story of Anya and Jari became an immediate legend in Isolo. It was shared around every evening fire. This was the story that finally changed what the villagers valued. the tale of a barren woman who risked the forbidden, found a miracle, and paid the ultimate price for it. Isolo remembered the despair of the barren wife, the audacity of the journey, the strange luminous plant, the golden fruit, and the powerful, gentle sun who stilled the wind and healed the sick. They revered Anya not just as a mother, but as the gatekeeper of a true wonder. Anya grew old in Isolo, respected and beloved. Her house remained empty, but her heart was full. She found peace in her purpose. She understood that miracles always carry conditions, and the truest form of love sometimes requires a willing, loving release. She often walked to the edge of the forbidden forest. She never entered it again, but she would sit at the foot of the great tree, near where she had first wept and where she had last seen her son. On one such afternoon, years after Jari's departure, she sat quietly, watching the shadows lengthen. She felt the cool kiss of the wind on her cheek. It was a familiar, knowing touch. "I am here, mother," Anya smiled. Her son was the wind that blessed the fields, the quiet warmth of the sun on her skin, the subtle power that kept Isolo safe. He was not in her arms, but he was everywhere. The bond was stronger than the veil between worlds. She had sought motherhood to end her shame. She had received it to teach her sacrifice. She had held the son of the spirit tree long enough to love him completely, and she had let him go to fulfill his greater purpose. Her story endured as a hymn to faith, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and a child. A bond that transcended the simple, measurable worth of Isolo and reached into the realms of the spirit. Anya, the once barren woman, finally knew her infinite worth. The dust of Isolo was still red and warm, and Anya rose, satisfied, and walked toward her home, where her love, which had let go, remained eternal.